Welcome back to the Two-Man Advantage podcast. I'm Nick Diesel, along with Darren DiCarlo and Kyle Simpkins, and of course, Kevin McShan. And we had a chance to check out MAC Media Day football, of course, at Ford Field.
Food was good. No.
I didn't have any. Kevin ate it all. So, Kyle Simpkins and Kevin McShan from the Two-Man Advantage podcast had a chance to go check it out and get some coverage for you, and they're going to let you know about what they've seen now. Kevin, the floor is yours.
It was an interesting experience for the two of us down at Ford Field last week when we had the opportunity to cover a whole lot of ground. We learned about the expansion of the conference, what they have in store for the upcoming year, and all about the success of the conference as well.
Yeah, they were talking about the commissioner had all kinds of stats thrown out there, how, it was only them and the Big Ten and the SEC with certain accomplishments from the year before.
3 teams with 10 wins or more.
3 teams with 10 wins or more. Yeah. And if you think about it, this is a conference where teams go to play the big boys right off the bat. They have the harder schedule with their limited resources that they have and the teams they get to put together. These are the teams that open against Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan State, Penn State. Yeah. These are the quote-unquote powder puff games that these bigger schools are playing. And for 3 teams in a conference like the MAC to come away with 10 wins or more, it's impressive. And then if you go over and you look at their MAC conference or their MAC conference record, if it was anywhere near the 7-1, 8-0, 6-2, you knew there was a quality school. I think it was Ball State that was undefeated and had 8-0 in the conference, which is impressive. And we got to sit down with their running back, Juwan Edwards, and he talked a bit about how hard it is as a running back to play in the conference. But learned a lot about the conference altogether. We got to sit down. You sat down with Jeff Quinn from the University of Buffalo. He's their head coach, and of course the legendary Auburn, former Auburn head coach and now Akron head coach Terry Bowden. He had all kinds of stuff to say. I was impressed with it. It was one of the first times I'd ever been to a media day like that, where you have the big news conference with the commissioner at first, and then they're just like, all right, in about half an hour, they'll just have tables of people from mostly it was head coach and 2 star players at each table, and you could just sit down and talk with them. And it was really good. I really enjoyed myself.
What I found interesting about the whole day was how they're so interested in making sure that the conference has some sort of a brand and making sure that the MAC as a conference is well represented on a national scale. And one of the things I found interesting when we attended the John Steinbrecher press conference, the commissioner of the conference, he said that the institution or introduction of a playoff system won't interfere with the success of the conference as a whole, which I found interesting.
Well, I mean, there's not going to be any MAC teams in the playoff, at least for a couple years, because they're not going to award. There's still going to be a little bit of BS in how college football's national champion is crowned. I mean, instead of number 3 getting screwed out of the national championship, it's going to be number 5 and 6 who get screwed out of the playoff. So there's always going to, and even if number 4 in the country is Miami of Ohio, and number 5 is Florida, I guarantee you Florida is going to that playoff for money. Exactly. Nick's giving me the Johnny football hands in the air symbol over here, but it's still based around money. But if the MAC ends up being the number 5 team in the country, let's not even use MAC. Let's use Boise State. They used to be in the WAC. Now they're Mountain West, right? Which is still a smaller conference. They're not going to make it in the first little bit. I think Terry Bowden touched on this when you were talking to him, that the playoff is good for college football all around. There's still going to be a handful of bowl games between December 28th and the national championship game. But there'll also be 2 really big games in there leading up to the championship game. I was really impressed at how the MAC held its own in this, because I watched the Big Ten Media Day on the Big Ten Network the other day, and yesterday actually, and it seemed exactly like it, except instead of having all the head coaches go up to podiums and talk, you were allowed to go to them and ask them any questions you wanted. I'm assuming every conference is a little different, but I was really
Depends on the commissioner.
exactly, and the commissioner touched on all kinds of stuff in his press conference.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was really impressed at the professionalism of the conference. It's not just a little brother conference, although it sort of is in the scheduling of it.
And the exposure part of it.
Yeah, but there's some legitimate teams there, and if you look at the players a conference like the MAC produces and puts into the NFL, I mean, you can name a handful of MAC players that have won Super Bowls. I mean, off the top of my head, Ben Roethlisberger, he played Miami of Ohio, and it really doesn't matter what school you come from; it's how you perform once you get to that next level. So these conferences do matter. Without smaller conferences like the MAC, the WAC, the Mountain West, the bigger conferences don't have the records and the numbers to show how good they are.
One final thought about Media Day, and we talked to Jeff Quinn about this, the head coach of Buffalo, about the exposure the conference is gaining in terms of getting high-profile players drafted into the NFL. If you look at Eric Fisher a year ago and Khalil Mack this year, it just goes to show you that you can find talent in all corners of the country.
But to check it out, we'll have the link up very soon. Kevin and I put together a nice little half-hour experience of our entire day. It features 3 players from the MAC, 2 coaches, and then Kevin actually got to drop a question to the commissioner during his press conference. We'll have that up on the website. Kevin, anything else you want to mention?
No, I just wanted to let everybody know that if they didn't want to watch the entire half-hour special, we'll also have each individual interview up as well. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with more of Two Man Advantage. Good stuff.